Hi, hello, I'm Khali and today I will show you how power works in Nomifactory. Let's get started. In Nomifactory, we mostly have to deal with two types of energy. One is more complicated, U, and one is a little less complicated, RF. In the early game, our power generator will be mostly RF, and through the entire game, it is the best way of transporting power from point A to point B over longer distances. Every RF conduit has maximal output, which can be a little confusing because it is not per cable, it's per connection. What do I mean by that? It's quite simple, but I understand if some people like me can have trouble understanding it. So, even though this cable, this conduit, has maximal output 512 RF per tick, as we can see here, I can deliver power to both of these capacitor banks, and they both get 512. So it's per connection. So if you have two power sources, like here, we have our dynamos working, they both are using the same conduit and they are delivering to the two different capacitor banks. Even though the maximal output of this conduit is 512, we in practice we are transferring 1024 RF per tick over this one conduit. Like I'm showing here, we have also two dynamos working, so two inputs of our power and one output in theory, because we have two connections, as you can see here. So they both are working on this one capacitor bank, giving us twice the maximal output of the conduit. And this is what we want to do, or this is what we want to do, depending on the situation. So this can be, for example, two different CEFs. What are CEFs? I will explain in a little bit. As an example, you can see here that we have one dynamo producing right now 2500 RF per tick. We have the conduit that has maximum of 512, and this forms one connection because we have one input, two outputs, but like I said, we have only one input. So our power will be divided between these two capacitor banks. If we will add one more dynamo or more than one dynamo, they will both have 512. Here I made an example of the other way around. We have three dynamos, both producing power of 2500 RF per tick, but there is only one output for our power, and they cannot exceed 512 RF per tick until we're gonna make more connections. So if we have three dynamos, we can just connect them in three different ways. Like for example here. Oh, and we got twice the amount, and I cannot connect. Oh, I can. Haha, I can be sticky. I can do this. Now we should have 1536 RF per tick. That means that if we have CEF 60 slot CEF, we need to have 4 connections with 512 conduit, like here. So we have 4 dynamos working above the required voltage of the CEF, but we need 4 inputs, 4 power inputs, 4 RF power inputs, and 4 connection, 1, 2, 3, 4, to supply it with enough energy for machines. And that's pretty much it when it comes to RF power. Yep, that's it. That's it. EU energy is a little more complicated, but don't worry, I will explain how it works after the end of the video. You will be an expert in no time. Trust me, I'm Khali, I'm a software developer, it's nothing to do with anything, but trust me, okay? EU is a little more complicated, but it's not too bad, okay? There are just few simple rules to follow, and I will tell you what rules are they, so don't worry. But so with EU energy, with EU power, we have two things to consider: voltage and amperage. Voltage is the maximum amount of power that we can give to a machine, and amperage is basically how many machines we can supply. During the game, you might encounter one issue, which is tech machines require EU energy, EU power, where we are generating RF through our dynamos, especially at the beginning of the game. So to transform RF energy into EU energy, we need CEF, and there are two types of CEFs. The first one is 4-slot CEF, and the other is 16-slot CEF. So as you can see in the description here, we can find how much power from FE we need for each CEF. In this case, we need 512 RF or FE, like it's written here, but that's the same thing, trust me. We have to supply 512 RF per tick for 4-slot, and for 16-slot we have to supply 2048 RF per tick. In practice, item slots are basically how much amperage we can provide by using CEF. So if you have 4 item slots, this CEF is generating 4 amps of power. To make it a little easier to understand, we have here 4-slot CEF, so 4 amps. We have 4 amp cable, and that can supply 4 machines working at the same time, no problem. And that's the golden rule of thumb, that if we have 4 amps, we need to use 4 amp cable and maximum of 4 working machines at the same time. If you will be sticking to that rule, everything will be fine. As a side note, you can use wires instead of cables. Wires are basically, well, not basically, they are cables, but without isolation, like rubber isolation. So they work exactly the same as cables, and they are cheaper to make. But there's one problem. If you will touch them, you can and you will probably die. So if you want to use wires, just remember to put them like in wall or somewhere where you don't, somewhere where you will not be touching them. If you want to use a 4 ampere or 4-slot CEF, you should use 4 ampere cable like this one. If you want to use 16-slot CEF or 16 amperage CEF, you should use 16 amp cable or wire, of course. So these guys over here, these noobs, just don't use them. No, you don't need them. You can use them for crafting, but imagine that they don't exist. Okay? Oh, and by the way, if you don't want accidents in your base, don't mix cables. Where if you will put a bigger cable over a smaller cable like this, nothing bad will happen. But this is useless. This is waste of resources. But if you will use a smaller cable, a cable that has not enough amperage compared to the network that we already have, then this happens. And this is bad. Don't want that. Don't want you fire. So remember, only use 4 amperage cables and 16 amperage cables depending on the CEF that you are using. Like I said, if you want to use, for example, CEF that has 4 amperes, don't use smaller cables, don't use cables or wires that cannot have that much amps, okay? Because if you will do it, also this can happen. Let me show you. I'm putting a 4-slot CEF here. Bam! The cable is gone. The whole cable is gone, and we have a bunch of fire in our base, which is not preferable, right? To summarize, 4 RF is worth 1 EU. Don't mix cables. Keep everything the same when it comes to amperage. So if you use 4-slot CEF, 4 ampere cable, and make it so maximum of 4 machines will work at the same time, because you can have like 20 machines, but if you are using only just few of them, that's okay. But just remember, maximum amount of machines that you can supply with power, RegTech, is the same number of amperage that you are providing through the CEF and the cable. And that's pretty much it.